Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Selling Greenville, your favorite real estate podcast here in lovely Greenville, South Carolina. I'm your host, as always, Stan McCune, realtor right here in Greenville, South Carolina, and you can find all of my contact information in the show notes if you need to reach out to me for any of your real estate needs, or just to talk about real estate, or just to talk about sports, whatever the case may be. You can find my contact information in the show notes. And just a reminder, as always, if you're using a podcast app where you can leave a rating or a review, please do that. And at the very least, subscribe to the show. I think all of the podcast apps allow you to subscribe and download episodes. At the very least, please do that. But a lot of you guys are listening to me on the Apple Podcasts app, and several, interestingly, I find, are listening on their computers, which is a bit surprising to me, but very interesting nonetheless. All you need to do is open up the show in that app and scroll down past the first few episodes, and then you'll see 5 stars. Just hit the 5 stars and just leave a little review, and I would greatly appreciate that. Today, we're going to have a little fun talking about what people that are moving here from out of state frequently say. The things that I most commonly hear from non-South Carolinians that are moving to the Greenville area, what they frequently say in surprise, or just what their commentary is about the area. I don't think this will be a super long episode, but I think that this is very interesting. I've learned a lot from all of my clients that have moved here from out of state, and it's very telling, and it's made me appreciate the Greenville area even more, hearing what people say. So we're just going to kick in. I have 10 things that non-South Carolinians say when they move to Greenville or when they explore Greenville. One of the first and most common things that I hear from people moving here from out of state are, where are all the basement homes? Greenville, generally speaking, is very flat, and which is interesting because we do have mountains all around the Greenville area, but Greenville itself, until you get to the northern regions of Greenville County, is quite flat. And builders around here, when they come in, they usually just level an area, just completely grade it out flat, and don't mess with basement homes. Well, that's very different than a lot of other parts of the country, particularly when you get up north. And so when I have people moving here from the north, I frequently hear, where are all the basement homes? It's just astonishing to them that people just don't have basements around here. And the basements that we do have are typically walkout basements. That's also, I've learned, an anomaly in comparison to other parts of the country. Well, unfortunately, Greenville doesn't have a lot of basement homes, and for some people, that's a problem. They want basement homes, and it's hard for them to find them. I'm now living in my second basement home, and I love them. I've complained about appraisers in the area. They tend to hate them. Although I have now had 2 straight transactions with basement homes where the appraisals have been okay. So actually 3 straight transactions with basement homes where the appraisal has been okay. So I'm riding that wave right now, and hopefully that will continue. Another thing I hear very frequently, these are from more of my southern clients coming up here from a southern area, is, wow, there's no gnats. Where are the gnats? Now, listen, there are gnats. But I guess, I don't know. I don't spend, I go down to Alabama where my wife is from occasionally, but I don't spend a ton of time in the deep south. But apparently just gnats being everywhere is a thing. Well, that is not a thing so much in Greenville. Now, we do have plenty of mosquitoes, particularly if you're in a wet area. But those could be treated too. We don't have a big problem with gnats, and for that, I'm grateful. That was like one of the Egyptian plagues, in the book of Exodus in the Bible. And I prefer to avoid Egyptian plagues at all costs. And so I'm glad that we don't have a ton of gnats in this area. That being said, what we do have that I will hear frequently from people, and I get this complaint from my Airbnb guests, the roaches are huge. Now, when people are saying that, what they're referring to is what we call locally palmetto bugs, which are not the German cockroaches that are prone to infest areas, but just they're awful. They're massive, they're gross. and they just look like mutant roaches. And I remember visiting down here, when I used to live in New Jersey, and visiting down here in South Carolina in the summer and seeing those things, and they terrified me. And there's like certain weather conditions. I think it's like when the humidity reaches a certain point that those palmetto bugs actually fly, and that is truly terrifying. I hate those things. I hate when they fly. It's very rare. Usually they just walk. But man, when they fly, it's gross. It's terrifying. And so that's not one of my favorite things about South Carolina, but I can live with it because there are so many other good things. Another, and this shouldn't be super surprising, but another very common thing that I hear from people, obviously when they come to Greenville, is, wow, the restaurant scene in Greenville is awesome. And yes, it is. We don't just have Cracker Barrel. We don't just have TGI Fridays. We have so many fantastic restaurants. My wife and I were partial to the Table 301 restaurant group in downtown Greenville. But downtown Greer also has some great places. Downtown Simpsonville has some great places. Downtown Travelers Rest has some great places. And even away from downtown, Woodruff Road and Five Forks, there are some really fantastic restaurants around there. Where I used to live in Greer, there is a restaurant called Latin Flavors that started as a food truck. That's a great restaurant. There's just so many great restaurants, so many different styles of cuisine. My only complaint, and this is another thing that I hear from people moving here from the New York, New Jersey area in particular, but from some other areas as well. The only restaurant scene that isn't good in Greenville is the Italian food scene. We don't have any truly just knock your socks off Italian, like if you're used to really good Italian that you would get up in the Northeast. Unfortunately, you're not going to get that here. We also don't yet have a Chicago deep dish pizza type of scene around here. I'm hoping that changes soon because I feel like there's definitely a market for that. I believe that there is a restaurant that sells it, but I've not heard great things about it. I don't know. Form your own opinion. But generally speaking, the restaurant scene in Greenville is awesome. Another thing that I hear from people, and I need to hedge this by saying we don't get a lot of snow around here, and most of the snow that we get is minimal. It usually is gone by the afternoon. It snows at night. We wake up and it's like, oh, everything's white. And then by the afternoon, everything's just muddy. That being said, every now and then we do get a big snow by this area's standards, or a lot of ice that wreaks havoc. And the question that I get that I'll hear in those instances are, where are the snow plows? Well, we don't have any. We don't typically need them, so we have to get plows from like other states. It's not ideal. But again, there are some years where in most of Greenville County, the weather conditions don't ever require a plow to ever come out. That being said, I do highly, highly recommend that you get some salt for melting snow or ice. It's not just any type of salt. You have to get a special kind of salt to do this. I witnessed one time people using table salt on ice. It doesn't work. Not all of salt melts ice in that way. So anyway, I got a big kick out of that when I saw people trying to melt ice using table salt. Clearly have not spent any time around ice before, like major ice issues like we have in the Northeast. But where are all the snowplows? Nowhere. There are basically no snowplows around here. So be prepared for that if you're new to the area and you're trying to prepare for the winter. Another frequent thing, and this should come as no surprise, but again, it's a good reminder to me when people are walking through downtown Greenville or other places and they're just like, there is just so much art. Great art on the street, great art shops, great artists in general. Of course, we have the Artisphere festival that happens every year. The art scene in Greenville, similar to the restaurant scene, is really fantastic. We have a ton of tremendous art and a ton of tremendous artists, and that's something that just it surprises people, right? Because typically you might have a small little little art district in a big city. And so you go to that area if you want to see art. But in Greenville, it's just like interspersed. There's just art everywhere, and there's artists everywhere, and there's art galleries everywhere. So you don't have to go to one spot to find it. You just see it everywhere. And I think that that's one thing that's particularly unique about Greenville. Another thing that I hear very frequently is, man, the rent is expensive. And this comes as no surprise, as I have told you guys before. There is a reason why rent in Greenville is more expensive than it should be. And it's something that you can complain to the county about if you want to. And that is that landlords have to pay triple the property tax that regular homeowners do. Our property tax for a rental property is triple what it is for a owner-occupied property. So very, very bad. Very bad. You, if you're in a situation where you're trying to rent, in some circumstances, the landlord or landlady that owns a rental property, they're having to pay three months of your rent that you're paying to them is just going towards the property taxes, which is insane. It should never be like that, but unfortunately, that's the situation we find ourselves in. So because property taxes are so high for rental properties, that ends up getting passed along as higher rent. And so the rent in Greenville is quite expensive in contrast to what you would expect, because Greenville is considered a relatively affordable area to buy in, but it's not a particularly affordable area to rent in. And that's something that I hear very frequently. Very frequently. Sorry, my voice tailed off there. Another thing, and I already alluded to this a little bit, but another thing I hear frequently is just shock that people have over how cute the other downtowns besides downtown Greenville are. Obviously, Travelers Rest, has the Swamp Rabbit Trail that goes through it. A lot of people love Travelers Rest, and it has its own little outdoorsy kind of feel to it. More and more, I'm hearing people talk about how much they love downtown Greer. Downtown Greer is super cute, has a great park with it, has a great little main street, and also Trade Street, which is basically another main street. And downtown Simpsonville is really cool. Kind of has that train town kind of vibe to it, which if you don't know what that means, you just have to go to downtown Simpsonville and see it. It is traffic in Simpsonville is not the best in downtown, but it is cool. It's very walkable. There's great places to go. We went for my birthday to a cool little arcade place right there in downtown Simpsonville. So there's just a lot of cool stuff to do in all these little downtowns, and they're cute. They've made them very walkable, and again, as I've already alluded to, great restaurants in all of these places. So Greenville is not just downtown Greenville. Obviously, downtown Greenville is the jewel of the upstate, but all of these other cute downtowns really surprise people when they go to them. They're just like, wow, this is awesome. And I always recommend to people moving here from out of town that they explore some of those other downtown areas. Another thing that I hear frequently from people moving here from outside the area, and this is a negative about the upstate, but let's just be honest, the drivers are bad. Yes, the drivers in Greenville are really bad, really oblivious. I don't really want to go on a rant at this moment, but I'm probably just going to go on a rant anyway. I'm amazed at how few drivers understand the concept of right-of-way. Now, I understand that, having come from New Jersey, people violate right-of-way, decor, whatever you want to call it, all the time. People will cut out in front of you, they'll turn when they're not supposed to turn, all that kind of stuff. But that's because the drivers in New Jersey are reckless, and they're aggressive. And they are, sometimes you have to violate some of the rules up there just in order to be able to make a turn or to be able to get somewhere. In Greenville, it's different. You've got this mishmash of people that come from these rural areas where there's basically no traffic, and you're mixing them in a pot with people that come from Chicago, from New York City, from Miami, all these different places where it's a lot more aggressive driving. And so you're putting all of these people in the same location. It creates a really bad environment with just bad driving all around. And I was thinking about this. One thing that is unique about Greenville is that people will come to downtown Greenville just to hang out. People that don't live near downtown Greenville will frequently go to downtown Greenville just to walk around, to go to Falls Park, all of that. That's unusual when you really think about it. How often do people that live in the suburbs of Atlanta go to downtown Atlanta just to walk around, right? It's like pretty much never. Like I know people that live in the suburbs of Atlanta that basically never, ever go into downtown Atlanta. The only reason why you potentially would be to go to some kind of an event, a sporting event or a concert or something like that. Generally speaking, maybe there's a restaurant that you want to go to, but people will travel from North Greenville County or from Piedmont or wherever to go to downtown Greenville just to enjoy Main Street, just to enjoy Falls Park. And so you get people that don't know. Well, where I'm going with that is some of these drivers don't know downtown Greenville or don't know Greenville in general. And so that adds to the dynamic. The people that are in downtown Atlanta or downtown Chicago or downtown New York, whatever, most of those people know those downtowns. They commute there every day. They know it like the back of their hand. And so even though they might be aggressive at driving, they're good at driving because at least in that environment, because they know it so well. In Greenville, it's a little bit different. So yes, the drivers are not great. They tend to not understand right away. You'll see someone waiting for, someone to turn when it's really their turn. It's just, it's a mess. So be alert and be prepared when you're out there driving. And particularly to bring this all back, particularly when there is any semblance of snow or ice or water on the ground. Here's another funny thing. And I'm going to make this quick, but it cracks me up. If you're not from the area and you've not started living in this area yet, if you visit during like bad weather, you'll see this. People will turn on their flashers when there's like heavy rain, and they're driving. Like, I do not understand that. It doesn't help me to see your vehicle any better. Like, just turn off the flashers. Like, I don't want to see that. Anyway, the drivers are bad. All right. And that was number 9. We're already here at the end. Number 10, the thing that I hear, and these aren't in any order. I just kind of did them in whatever order. But the number 10 thing that I hear very frequently from people coming here from out of state, the lakes are amazing. And we do. We have a ton of lakes in the area, and they're all amazing. Some of the lakes have beaches. Some of the lakes allow, jet skiing and things like that. Some of the lakes allow fishing, some kayaking. There's a lake for whatever lake activity that you want to do. They have them. We have them in this area. Now, it might not be in Greenville County. Some you might have to go to Anderson County, or you might have to go to Spartanburg County. But regardless, there are great lakes all over the upstate, and those are things that people really like. We don't have, an ocean to go to that is closer than 4 hours away, but we've got great lakes. Of course, we've got great mountains too if you get into the northern part of Greenville or Spartanburg County, and then up into North Carolina. So those are things that people love, that people are really amazed by when they come here. And it's easy to take all of these things for granted, but it helps me as a realtor when I hear these things from people moving here from out of state and from out of town to remember, you know what? The upstate of South Carolina, Greenville, Spartanburg, all of this area, it's a really unique area, and it's a really awesome area, and I'm really grateful for it. And so I hope you are too, and I hope this helps you if you're considering moving here. There are some of the things that people talk about, that people are surprised by, that people are learning when they move to the area, and hopefully that benefits you in some way. That is it for today's episode. I appreciate you all listening. As always, if you have a moment, please leave a 5-star rating and a review, subscribe, download the episodes, and if you need to reach out to me for any reason, my contact information is there in the show notes. Thank you guys for listening. Have a great week, and we will talk again next time.